Samantha from Samantha Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create the torn paper technique. And today I'm going to be using these three colours of Polymer, which is black, pearl white and copper. I'll also be using translucent polymer clay later, but that is again for later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack these three colours, and it's going to be pearl white first, then the black, and these will both, all of these pieces will run out on the thinnest setting of my pasta machine, or roughly 1mm thick. Okay. Stack those like so. Okay, and I'm going to trim away a lot of that because we're not going to need too much of that, because I'm going to run it through the pasta machine again. And right now, any pieces that you're not going to use, you can just separate and then use those colours again, so you end up with less pieces of scrap. So I'll just pop that to the side. Also going to trim alongside here and here. Okay, then I'm going to take that and I'm going to run that through the middle setting again, or not middle setting, the thinnest setting again, bringing this down from 3mm thick to 1mm thick. And there we go. That will have thinned it out quite a bit. I'm just going to lay that down, and I'm going to apply acrylic paint to it. And these are the acrylic paints I'm using. Any acrylic paint will work. The colours that I'm using, that one was Fruit Punch, this one is Eclipse, and this one is Mint Chip. Again, any metallic paints will work. You don't even have to make them metallic. Just choose colours that you like. And I'm just going to add that, and I don't want to add too much paint. I have a tendency to add more than I need. There you go. And it does not need to be in any particular pattern right now, especially since I'm going to swirl it a bit later. Okay, and that should do. Then I'm just going to swirl that roughly. Okay, and I'm going to clean my finger off between doing that, so that I don't carry over more paint than I need. Then in the gaps, I'm just going to tap that down, and it is going to blend the paint a little. You can be more purposeful with the pattern if you want, but this is going to get torn up and kind of mixed together, so any pattern that you make should be kind of abstract, because it's not really going to come out with anything. You're not going to be able to maintain a pattern very easily. And I'm just going around and making sure that that pattern's thinned out a bit. Or the paint's thinned out anyway. Okay, and there you go. Once you've done that, just allow the paint to dry completely, and then we can prepare the translucent. Okay, and I had a little idea while it was drying, because there are some thick patches of paint, and I just kind of blew on them to try and get them to thin out a bit, and then I thought that would be kind of cool if I did that a little more purposefully. So I'm just going to add a couple spots of the green, because I feel like that got overshadowed a bit. There you go. I'm actually just going to take that, spot that around a bit more. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to blow this with a straw to thin out both the areas of paint, but to also get a kind of wave-like pattern. So let's see which I do. Over here will work. And that is something that you can choose to do or not, completely up to you. But I did want to just say that I have done that because the pattern would have changed from one cut to the other. Okay, and it's been about 15 minutes and it is almost dry. You can continue allowing it to dry until it is completely dry. But what I want to do is I want to take a piece of paper. I'm going to lay that over the top, and any of the wet areas I'm going to allow to kind of soak into the paper a little bit. And there shouldn't be too many. I'm just going to get that stuck down and lift up, and that will, and this is mostly because I'm impatient, so I'm just going to get rid of the extra paint there. Okay. Then you could use it exactly like it is, but I'm going to also apply some of this copper metal leaf, just small amounts of it. I'm going to rip it up and then just apply that like so. Don't need a huge amount, just enough to add a little bit of extra shine, and that will show up once we apply the translucent over the top. So don't worry, you don't need a lot, it's just a little bit of extra shine. Okay, and there we go. As I said, not too much. Then I've got a piece of translucent that was rolled out in the thinnest setting of my pasta machine, and I did that between two pieces of paper. So this was sandwiched between two pieces of paper and then run through, so it comes out a little thinner than what it would have been if you just ran it through straight, and also it prevents it from kind of rippling on the thinnest setting, because I do find that sometimes that can happen. Then you want to give it a very gentle stretch, and that can thin it out even further. Then place that down and smooth that down onto the clay like so. Oops, and that's fine, that's fine. Okay, then give it a proper burnish with just a piece of printing paper, just to get it stuck down, because that paint takes a little bit of pressure to bond to the clay. So just give it a good old burnish, and then I would recommend popping that through the pasta machine again on your thinnest setting. Actually no, on the second thinnest setting, so just to thin it out further. Okay. Okay. And there we go. You should be able to see through the translucent, and it should have crackled that metal leaf. Now, for ease of use, I'm just going to split this in half because it's a lot to work with all at once. All you're going to do is now you're going to grab that and you're going to rip, stick down, rip, stick down, and you're going to create a sheet of clay like this. And what happens is, because we had kind of black and copper on the backing, the copper is not going to show up a whole lot, just a little bit, enough to give a little bit of a accent, but the black for the most part is what you're looking for. And once we've flattened this down, the black will show up and it will help accentuate those torn edges, so you get the torn paper technique. And you can lay them down however which way you want, just rip and place it down. And I would do that with all of the clay to make a veneer. there we go. That will do for the 2 earrings that I am going to make. I still have about half of that sheet still off to the side, and I'm probably going to use that as the backing. Now, the important thing when you come to flatten this is to kind of push against the grain, because you don't want to cover up the black. You want to actually accentuate it. So I like to press down and then pull towards the grain, and that way, as it flattens, it kind of pushes the top layer of clay back and exposes more of the black underneath, therefore giving a more striking pattern. If you didn't want that so much and you wanted a little bit more of a muter pattern, then push towards the grain. Okay, and the trick is not to pull too hard because you don't want to smear the clay. It's just enough to kind of get that pattern going. And there, hopefully that difference shows up on camera. Then I take a piece of paper and I will then properly burnish it until it is completely flat and even. Okay, and there we go. Lift that up off the tile, and bear in mind the back will also have a little bit of a pattern. I am going to cover that up, but if you do like the back, then burnish it between 2 pieces of paper to smooth out the back. I'm going to pop that to the side, and I'm going to make another piece to go with that. And for that I've got a piece of copper clay that was rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, and a texture stamp of choice. I've already stamped out a piece so you can see the texture. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that into place and bring over something that I can use as a buffer between my fingers and the clay. So I'm just going to use this. And I prefer to use my fingers to do this. It's a personal preference. You can use a roller, but I just press from one side of the stamp to the other, working the bubbles or air bubbles out as I go, like so. Okay. Then before you lift it out, check the back, because you'll be able to see whether or not it's correctly stamped. I can see there's a huge air bubble over there, or a spot where I just simply haven't got the texture correctly. So I will then go and press deliberately over there to make sure that I get the impression I want. And that's the nice thing about translucent stamps, is they can show you whether you've got a good impression or not first. And I'm only going to be using this section, so I'm not too worried about the rest. But that will work. Here we go. Then lift that out the texture. And there's the impression. Okay, and then I've got my veneer and my texture. And I'm just going to work out whereabouts I want to stamp or cut out this, and I'm going to trim around it roughly. And I'll pop this to the side, and I can use that for the opposite piece. And then this, let's see, where do I want the top part to be? Okay, and I'm going to cut across over here. Just going to make a mark on either side of the cutter, showing where my end points are, and then I'm going to just do a rough little wavy line like so. bring this back over, make sure I'm happy with it. I'm actually going to turn that over because it's going to be the top part that I want, and I'm happy with that. Once you're happy with that, then pop that over the top of your texture and gently press down, not enough to make it stick permanently, but just enough that it will stay in place so that you can trace out just about the same line through that. And everything I'm doing with this one you will repeat if you are making a earring pair. Okay. Lift that. This I'm going to pop back into my copper clay packet, and this I am going to place together like so. Okay, and then I want the two to stick together, so I'm going to press them together as much as I can without disturbing the texture. Then I'm going to take a ball tool, and along the edge there I'm going to drag the copper up along the border, and this is going to create both a texture, it's going to help stick the two pieces together, and it will create a little bit of a dividing line between the two veneers. And don't worry about them being stuck together perfectly, because I am going to put a backing on this, so anything that isn't completely bonded together by doing this will get taken care of by applying a backing. But I did want to have some kind of border between the two pieces. There we go, that should work. Then lift those two up gently. I'm going to bring over our veneer from earlier, flip that over, and apply these two to that. And keep in mind that you can use anything as a backing. It can be a solid colour of clay. Like if you don't want to use the paint veneer that we had, another good option for a backing would just be the solid copper colour that we have here. That would work very well, so don't feel like you have to do that. Okay, just make sure that it's pressed down. It should stick because it's all raw clay. Now I'll go grab this, and I'm going to line it up in a way that I like. Okay, and I've just transferred it to a tile so that it doesn't stick in the cutter when I cut it, instead of being on the piece of paper like before. And I'm going to cut it at a different angle than what I said I was going to, because I like this angle better. And I'm just going to press down, and I'm only going to do it halfway. Then I'm going to lift and release the cutter like so, place it back down, and this helps prevent it from sticking. Gonna cut down again, and this might be overkill since I'm doing it on the tile, but that should be fine. Better safe than sorry. Then I'll finish cutting the final way, making sure I have a nice clean cut, and there we go. Then that copper can just go straight back in the packet. There's no need to turn that into scraps. And this I can even separate out that from the paint veneer. You could use that then to create more torn paper techniques, because having it cut out in the middle doesn't really affect that. But there we go. And I'm going to leave the little piece in there, because that I might use as an earring topper or separately as a different pair of earrings. And then I have another piece that I cut out with the opposite side of this one. When we cut the torn paper piece in half with the little squiggle lines, I used the other piece for this one, and that is the opposite earring. Let me actually turn those around the right way around, and there you can see how that looks. I'm then going to pop that into the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Once it's baked, I'm going to need to sand the backs because they might have a little bit of a shiny finish being baked on the tile, but that's why I put translucent over the top of the paper technique, because that way you can sand it and not worry about paint being removed. But yeah, bake that for a full hour and then you can finish them off. Okay, and there we go. That's how they look after they've been baked. You can see that the translucent cleared up nicely and the colours just pop quite a bit more. Let me actually bring over the I still have a bit of the raw veneer so you can see the colour difference there, and yeah, it just looks much nicer. Then also the back has cleared up nicely and it actually looks really cute, so that will make a nice double-sided earring. But anyway, the next step is going to be to give these a little sand just to clean them up. And for that I'm going to be using some polishing papers. I'm going to start with the lowest grit, which is the green. And let me just pop those to the side. And I'm going to mostly focus on sanding the watercolor - torn paper side of the piece, because that's the side I really want to shine up. It's okay if you sand along the line a little bit, but try to avoid this area, because I want to keep that exactly as it is. And I'm also going to do the same for the back of the piece, because it does have a bit of a shine, but I'm not sure how well the camera can pick it up. It's not a completely clean shine. It's got some spots that don't have it, and it looks quite mottled in person, so that needs to be sanded and re-shined. And you can also give the sides a sand. They actually came out quite clean, so it might not necessarily be necessary. And I'll start with the 400 as I've done, and then I'm going to go up through all the grits up to an 8000, and that should bring it up to a little bit of a shine. And you can also give a quick pass over the top of the texture, just a very light pass, and go through each of the grits, and that will just allow this to have a little bit of a shine when it's done. Okay, and here they are now that they've been sanded, and as they are, they actually look really nice, as well as the backs, but I want to give them an extra shine by giving them a buff. Now, these two are going to be a earring pair, and these two I'm actually going to turn into studs, because I just think it gets a little large once you add the topper, but that's personal preference. So I'll pop those to the side, and these ones I'm going to give a buff. So I'm going to use a Dremel. You could also take an old pair of jeans and just rub them really vigorously against them, and that will give you a decent buff as well. But if you really want a nice high shine, a buffing wheel does the trick. Okay, and I've just done a little bit quickly because I want to see if the camera can pick up the difference between the one side and the other. Hopefully that shows up. But I'm going to buff the back, the front and the back. These ones I'm just going to buff the fronts, and as for the backs, I'm not going to worry about those because I'm going to be using liquid clay to attach the studs. Okay, and there we go. That's how they should look once they've been buffed. Really nice. And I didn't even use Renaissance wax this time because they don't need any kind of sealing, because the translucent is covering any mixed media, that being the paint, and this is just pure clay, so you don't need to worry about sealing it at all. Going to pop those to the side. Those will get assembled in a bit. As for these ones, they've also got a nice shine to them. I'm going to bring over a tile and just flip those around, and I'm going to use some translucent liquid clay. Any translucent liquid clay will work. I'm using Kato liquid clay. Okay, and that's enough for both of them actually. And this is, again, I'm not sure if I said translucent. And I'm just gonna distribute that. And then just apply it all the way to the edges. And the reason I like using the Kato one is because it comes out shiny once it's been baked, and so it can give the effect of it looking like a varnish, so you don't need to worry about it coming out matte or anything like that. The Sculpey liquid clay works as well, but that one comes out matte. Okay. And then once you've distributed the liquid clay around like that, just grab the earring post and apply it to the back, and then drag the liquid clay over the top. Don't worry about being perfectly centered right now, you can move it around a little later. Right now the concern is to get all of that liquid clay on top so that once it bakes it's trapped inside the liquid clay and can't move. And I prefer using this to glue, as I just find it a lot more secure. You also don't need to worry about reacting to the clay at all, so I just find that's the best way to secure studs a lot of the time. And I'm going to repeat the process with this one. Then I'm going to pop that into the oven and bake it for half an hour at Primrose recommended temperature, and the translucent should clear up and then they'll pretty much be finished. Okay, and while those are in the oven, I'm going to assemble these ones. So I've just got some little satin cord here. And I'm just going to pop through a loop, like so. Position that at the top of the piece. Okay, that will work. Then I've got a squeeze-on cord end, and I'm just going to pop the cord through there, and I'm going to get it to go all the way through. And the fiddly bit is going to be to get that to come through so that I can pull it all the way down. So just bear with me for a moment while I get that through. Here we go, that's the one. And then the next one. There we go. Then once you've got the two cords through, push that all the way down, right up against the bead, leaving a little bit of room. Then squeeze in the middle to squish that down onto the cords. Give it a little pull to make sure it's stuck. Then trim away the extra cords. Like so. And then you can attach your ear wire. And I'm using copper today because it matches nicely with this clay down here. And that's something that you could change up in the project if you want to, is swap out any time that I used copper for something like silver or gold, if you wanted to use those as the metal for the findings. That's something that you could do so that it matches across the piece. But yeah, that's pretty much how you would assemble those, or at least how I want to assemble them. There's a bunch of different ways that you could do that if you wanted to, but yeah, that's how I chose to do them. And those studs should be just about ready. And there we go. That's how they should look when they come out of the oven. They should have a nice shiny finish on the back if you're using Kato liquid clay, and so they will be nice and double-sided now. Also, that liquid clay will have absolutely trapped that little stud back in there. These are not going to come off anytime soon. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. I do videos like this every single week, more often than not every single day. So if you want to see more content like this, do consider subscribing. And if you'd like to support the channel so that I can continue making videos just like this one, please do consider becoming a member. There is a join button just below this video, or you can check out the tools and supplies on my Etsy store. I make pretty much all of the tools and supplies on there, like for instance the texture stamp that I used or the cutter that I used, and that is a great way to support the channel while getting some cool unique tools to use for your own polymer clay projects. But again, that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, leave them below and I will get to them as soon as possible, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.